Empire Endless here with new wave Tekken. And there might be some trouble today. I mean smoking pistols and all that. And that's okay. That's just fine. Playing Tekken. You probably keep your ear to the ground about your main character you play. As do I. Cue one anime-haired fellow named Lars Alexanderson in a stance of his called Silent Entry. Lars players, fiercely loyal and quite vocal. I've seen this particular stance being talked about all over. I've seen people say, yes, Silent Entry is not a good stance. And I've seen people say, no, Silent Entry is a viable option through and through. Now that brings a point of contention between people to the degree that Lars players and non-Lars players alike are all over the internet saying to each other,
what a stupid son of a bitch.
Let's take a look at the Tekken quick fix for today. Little FYI here. This is dynamic entry. Lars is coming at you. He's standing upright, showing off his strong bone structure. This is silent entry. Quiet. Lars dips down like he's gonna tie your shoelaces together or something. So how does silent entry really fare? Lars masters will go through all the things that make the stance good, even on block. They are Tekken King or Tekken Super Saiyan Omega, or have been playing the game since Tekken Tag whatever, so like 10 to 15 years. However, 8 million people bought this game. And what I'm about to tell you will shut down the vast majority of them, which is why I think silent entry stance, at least on block, isn't that strong. So, the weakness of silent entry, not on hit, but on block, is this. Dick jab. Dick jab. Now, let's take a look at some options I've seen being presented in regard to how to handle silent entry. My caveat here is that I'm talking specifically on block. They are viable options, even if unnecessary. The number one attack I see from silent entry is turbine hook. If Lars does this, you can sidestep left or right, hop kick, block, punish with a while rising. But what if you sidestep and Lars does electric volley? So okay, you can duck and launch that. But what if you duck? You may get smacked by lightning thrust. Better to stand and block. But stand blocking may get you into trouble if bolt smash is thrown out, which forces crouch and sets up Delta Slicer quite nicely. And when you crouch to evade electric volley, what if Lars throws out Rising Storm? You get launched. If Lars does blank, you do blink. If Lars does this, you do that. No. No need to make this overcomplicated. Just dick jab, and he's done. Every single option aforementioned will be beaten out by junk punch. Save for, if there would be a saving grace, I'd say it's Hurricane Axle. It will evade, crush, completely ignore junk punch if the attack gets just a teeny bit past its startup frames of animation. And characters that have a down one move will be hit by silent entry attacks if they accidentally throw it out, and may struggle to access junk punch in time before the kick smacks him in the face. Jin himself here, having a down one attack, struggles to junk punch in time. But here, you just go with the down forward one option. And again, everything Lars can do from silent entry on block is covered. Everything. But there was a match between Nobi and Knee. And Nobi picked Lars, and he was having some success and some failure against Knee. Knee didn't seem to focus on catching Lars in the midst of silent entry, save for a few times, but was effective when Nobi pushed buttons in silent entry on block. But why did Knee just junk punch every single time? Because speed kills. How fast can you push a button when recognizing silent entry? Because moves from silent entry can make you pay if you wait just a touch too long, even though Lars is -5 on block. which is why you may see silent entry so much. I'd say it makes silent entry a more viable option than it otherwise would be if you knew how it worked. But Ben Chang did this stance against Joy Fury, and it worked out as good as it could. The commentators noting that Joy Fury apparently did know the matchup very well. And even yours truly, I will at the drop of a hat go into silent entry on block, even after advocating and being very much under the impression that silent entry is playing with the life of Lars more so than the health of your opponent. But I only do it if I throw it out once in a match and discover, oh, I will get away with using silent entry this way. And on some characters, getting away with it is easier than others. I will say here, since he's on the screen, Marduk is quite the particular case. As with him, you could use his down forward 1, though it may trade. An electric volley will light his ass up. He also suffers from having both a down 1 and down 2 attack, making access to junk punch difficult. Flash hook, as Knee would use, will score you a launcher, but again suffers from electric volley syndrome. The magic move would be down forward 2 for Craig. When it comes to those who don't understand their options to opt out, I get it. But what about those who do understand the weakness? And still, I get away with using silent entry. But why do I get away with it? Why don't players at the beginner ranks to the very top of the Killer Elite Pro Play ladder, why don't they just opt out of any mix-up Lars can throw here? If they in fact recognize the stance and how to stop it. Just do down forward 1 or dick jab. Stay safe and just knock Lars out of it. Why play the Lars guessing game when the vast majority of the time they don't have to? I think I've come up with the answer. It's because of what they get if they guess right. Turbine hook, -12, strip Lars of all of his offense with a good damaging punish. You got the juice now. You got the lightsaber. Plus frames, good to go, or just hopkick. Electric volley, quick dick jab, down forward 1, still have time to duck after, and launch. Lightning thrust, sidestep launch, or block for -10. Better damage than a junk punch and or better frame advantage. Bolt smash, sidestep into launch, or janky launch. Rising storm, -14, nice chunky punish, or an all-out launch in a few cases. Hurricane axle, sidestep launch. You can get so much more if you guess right. Okay, if you think your read on the Lars player is correct, then just a measly junk punch. Though it does give you plus frames, people don't normally press after being hit by a low jab. The situation kind of just resets. Looking at a few other stances. Leo's King K stance is +9 on block. Kazumi's Fearless Warrior stance is +8 on block. The Mishimas have wave dash, though difficult to do, can be done without performing any attacks. The mix-up is built within the dashing. Negan can just stand there and go into stance, and there are a slew of others that can go directly into stance from nothing. I'm not saying silent entry should be plus on block. I'm simply noting its shortcomings relative to other members of the Tekken cast. Lars moves heavily towards his opponent with both dynamic and silent entry stances, which makes sense because he's supposed to be beginner friendly, making moving closer to your opponent easier. I think because of this, Lars cannot go into silent entry all on its own. He has to commit to a button first, if not a few of them. One more thing to cover is, I've seen a few folks touting HE combination is the cover move for silent entry, and it absolutely is. It changes things in entirety. But like I said, most Lars players, I find, in my experience, do not use HE combo or double tap for that matter to mix with silent entry stance. They just go into silent entry straight out. And as you've seen in this video, it is to the point where doing so is tournament viable. Those two moves Lars masters know to use and are the true saviors of silent entry. But this video is already going on longer than I expected. Appreciate you sticking with it, by the way. Hope you're getting some entertainment from it and some informational content, which is what we always strive to do here at New Wave. Anyway, back to silent entry on block. To put this another way, I'm just here to simply note the weakness of the stance. Not to say the stance is weak, if that makes sense. I'm not saying the stance should be buffed or changed, or it's the worst thing in the world. You can use it. It can be a great weapon. I think it goes into Lars' beginner friendliness of offense being easy in Tekken, so silent entry cannot have too many defensive anchors attached to it. It's a stance to me, like others in Tekken, that once you understand it, it's not so scary. And moreover, it has a killer weakness. Continue your Tekken journey. Appreciate you spending some time here. Hit me up on Twitter at New Wave Tekken to talk Tekken. I'm Audi 5000.